All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have the beautiful Vanessa Vega joining us. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
All righty.
Good morning.
Good morning. For starters, thanks for coming and doing this. I know we just shot yesterday, but now you were awesome enough to say, hey, I'll come back and hang out tomorrow morning early to do this. So let's start with you. Let's talk about some things about you. You recently joined the industry, the adult industry. Prior to that, you were a dancer. You're a vegan, and I think we talked. What is your title officially?
It was your friendly local?
Your local slutty hippie on Twitter. So now you guys know, local slutty hippie. Did we say vegan already too?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with that.
The vegan thing?
Yes. Why?
I hate talking about it, honestly, because people get so even if I don't say anything, if I'm just sitting there eating my freaking salad, like they have to go into their own tirade, and I'm like, I didn't even say anything. I'm just eating my food.
Right.
Honestly, I think it's because I wasn't poor growing up by any means, but we definitely weren't rich. And I lived with my dad mostly, and he wasn't big on cooking. So most of the meat that we ate came from like Taco Bell or Wendy's. So one day I was eating Arby's. I was eating a chicken tender, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with this. I think I'm done eating meat. And my dad was like, sure you are. Yeah. And here we are. It's been like, I was 10 years old when that happened, and I'm 26.
Holy fuck, you did that 10 years old?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's odd. I'm not going to lie, that's odd, because fast food at 10 years old, kids are like, fuck yeah, fast food, McDonald's, and you were just like, no, I'm not.
But it was every day, man. Every meal.
The fast food?
Yeah.
I mean, people do what people do.
I don't know. So it was never about like animal advocacy stuff. I mean, it's kind of grown into that, but I'm not, you're never going to see me with like a furs murder sign. Like, I'm not like that. I don't care about eating with people. I don't know. It's just like, I don't want to eat it. Like, it's not really like a political stance.
So it's more of just like, I feel like at 10 years old, that's a pretty deep, like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like at 10, because I feel like at 10, I don't know, I don't remember being 10, but my kid's 8, almost 9. And if I were to say, hey, how do you feel about food? He'd be like, it tastes good. Yeah. Like, I don't think he'd have he knows the food that he likes, and he's very particular because he's kind of a bougie kid because we've raised him that way. But that's a pretty strong opinion at 10 years old, which is I applaud him. Watch this. I got a button to do it. I applaud you. Because it is at 10 years old. That's a pretty dedicated thing. And especially, you said, how old are you now?
I'm 26.
26, that's 16 years. That's over half your life. And you look good. I mean, I saw you naked yesterday. You look fucking phenomenal. You got a hell of a body on you. But there's no politics behind it.
No.
You don't care.
No.
So if I were to sit here and have a big juicy burger, you could give a shit less.
I really don't care.
Okay. Do you think that you ever would again?
No, I never intentionally ate meat in the 16 years that it's happened, but I've been accidentally served it one time, and I honestly had no idea. And within 30 minutes, I was throwing up for like hours, and I was just like, wow, that's really not worth it.
Yeah. I was in a band with a guy who was a vegan for, I don't know how long. I take that back. He wasn't a vegan. He was a vegetarian. He ate cheese sandwiches. That was like how he survived, was cheese sandwiches. It was a weird thing. And then one day before a really big show, we're ready to do this thing, and we're going to go to this show. And he shows up, and he's like, I don't feel so good. And I'm like, what happened? He was like, I celebrated today. And I was like, what do you mean you celebrated today? He was like, it's our first show, so I went to McDonald's. And I'm like, not only did you have meat, but you had McDonald's meat for your first thing after like 4 or 5 years. He's like, yeah, I'm not feeling so great. I was like, you shouldn't. Even if you weren't a vegetarian / vegan, whatever, McDonald's probably isn't the best thing for you to be putting in your gut.
Was he able to perform?
Oh, he performed. There was a whole lot of coming off, but he pulled it off. Yeah. Yeah, it was it wasn't. Well, thank God I had a drum kit that separated me from him.
To be completely honest, I feel like maybe I've never really like verbalized this before, but I try to avoid having like a strong opinion on anything.
Right.
Because I am so not into arguing with people, and I'm so not into confrontation that I will, if someone asks me like, what's your stance on blah, 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 and I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Can't talk about it. And in my head, I'm like, I have this very strong opinion, but I'm not going to say anything.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people have that opinion too, that they're like, I'll just sit here and be quiet.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth getting into a fucking argument over.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was coming up, you had you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about abortion, and you don't talk about politics ever. And what should have been taught is here's the way you talk about abortion or politics or religion or anything that's so strong and deep rooted that people are like, you motherfucker, and want to fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have fucked up. I think we not being able to have an intelligent conversation and me say, hey, I think this candidate is the most amazing thing ever. And you completely opposed to me say, fuck you, this is, but now we can talk about it rather than get my gun or get my knife or I'm going to punch you in the fucking throat.
Or you're stupid.
Yeah. And the thing, there's that saying that's,
ignorance is bliss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ignorance. That's the word. Ignorance.
Yeah.
So the ignorance is bliss thing is where back then there was no social media and you didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So you could have a person who was a Republican who believed whichever way they believed in religion and abortion because they never talked about it, talking to a Democratic who believed completely opposite of all of the things that the Republican, and I use those only just because they're vague, and they could hang out and they could have dinner and they could be best friends because they never talked about it. And now social media, everyone is entitled to have an opinion and everyone feels that they need to face fuck everyone else with their opinion.
Yep.
So there's people that are like, well, I'm not your friend anymore and I'm going to silence you on this social media and I'm going to unfriend you on that social media only because of a fucking political stance. And it's like, just stop.
But what do you think, though? Do you think that that's better? That people are like, okay, well, this is who I really am, and if I'm really going to be this vocal about it, maybe it is better that we're not friends. You know what I mean?
I think that if you're friends with someone, judging them solely on, because you were friends with them for a reason, you formed a bond and you became a friend with them and you enjoy their company and you enjoy, apparently for the most part, everything that you do with each other. But suddenly because they voted for Trump or they're a Trump supporter, and I'm not by any means, but if that's the case, and I've got friends, I've got relatives that are Trump supporters to this day, and I'm kind of like, I don't agree with you still supporting this bag of shit, but you're my family or you're my friend. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to disown you and silence you. Now, if it's a bunch of bullshit propaganda that you just won't stop bleeding out of the face with, I'll just ignore you. But I don't know. I think it's just drastic. I think people have their skin's gotten too thin. People there's not that you fucking, I don't know, man up, woman up, whatever it is. Just fucking get over it. Stop worrying so much and taking shit so goddamn personal and let people be individuals and let them be who they are. And as long as they're being cool to you and there's not hate and being aggressive and hurting people, leave them the fuck alone.
Totally.
Everybody. Now, if there's this piece of shit who is doing harm to people and they're just hate, fuck them. But most of us aren't friends with those people anyway. And if you find out that person that you thought was a friend is actually that type of hate monger, then fuck them. Then you silence them and unfriend them. But then you also do it in real life and be like, hey, you're a bag of shit and I don't like you anymore because
but
of this.
That's different than the alien conspiracy theorist guy.
Yeah, it's the difference between someone who you're like, wow, that's really fucking kooky and I would never believe that. But him and I have great conversations and him and I do the things and everything about our relationship is amazing except that I don't agree that he voted for or he's a Catholic or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. People
are weird. People are too fucking sensitive. So let's talk about your dancing. Let's talk about how you feel about talking about that.
I can talk about it for years. I have a lot of
we got an hour
experience.
So what was it going? Were you feature dancing? Tell me about it.
Okay, so I started because all my stories start because of a man. That kind of pisses me off.
Goddamn penises.
Right? I was with this guy. I was a waitress. My car got totaled. Needed a new car because he wanted me to move with him to Phoenix, which I'm so glad I didn't. And so I was on Craigslist looking for other waitressing jobs or something to get extra cash for a car. And I found a job listing on Craigslist that said bikini waitress at LAX restaurant. And I, like an idiot, didn't look up the place at all. I just went for an interview, and it's a strip club. And it was my first time going into a strip club. And I just walk in, and there's just a bare naked lady there. And I was just thinking about turning around. And then the guy who's interviewing me comes in. He takes me into a VIP booth. And the whole time he's talking to me about dancing. And I was like, I'm here to waitress. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes,
Right.
oh, well, we're not doing waitressing here. So if you want a waitress, you have to do it at our other location, which was definitely nowhere near as nice as where
Right.
I was interviewing. It was actually pretty horrendous. The worst place I've ever worked at. Like, I don't want to get into the specifics because of the platform we're on, but
Right.
so I actually said no. And then 2 weeks later, I still hadn't gotten a job. And I was like, okay, well, I have to do this. I have to make money. So I didn't tell my boyfriend. I was waitressing for about 2 weeks. And there was guys that were like, come on, like, just go on stage. Just give me one dance. Like, please. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. I'm only going to do this to make my car. And then I'm out of here. So one night, my manager, these girls, I wish I could stand up. These girls, you know these girls. They're on stage like this.
Mm-hmm. She, for people that are just listening, she kind of has that kind of high attitude, like almost Jersey girl.
Yeah,
Like, who the fuck do you? They couldn't be bothered with you.
Yeah, they don't even dance. They just walk around and they're just like, come on, like, where's my $1,000?
Yeah, entitled
Yes.
strippers.
So,
And I love Jersey girls, by the way.
not specific to Jersey girls. I'm standing next to my manager and I was like, what is this? Because I was a competitive hula dancer for 10 years. So I like had some type of dance background.
Okay.
And I was like, what is this? They're not even trying. And he was like, stop talking smack and go up there and do it yourself. And I was like, I would never do that. And so he hands me a $100 bill. And at the time I was making $300 every 2 weeks. So $100 was a lot of money.
Right.
So I was like, okay. I got up on stage, immediately got naked. But the people that had been waiting for me to go on stage threw $1,000 on my stage. And I was like, quit waitressing. I immediately started dancing that night. They had a shoe store in the back, bought me some shoes. I left at 4 a.m. It was a great night. I left that club shortly after, and I didn't think that I was going to dance anymore because my freaking boyfriend found out, and he dumped me because he said he couldn't handle the thought of me walking around in my tiny heels picking up dollar bills.
Fuck him.
I mean, right? Here I am.
Because it bothered his ego.
He had problems.
It was sensitive.
I know. I'm trying to think of a good segue. I danced for a long time. Rhino, Spearmint Rhino. Mm-hmm. I was part of their Entertainment of the Year contest. I represented one of the clubs in Orange County. And then I got a trailer, like a little tiny, like a teardrop trailer. Mm-hmm. It was like that, but like a box. And there's no kitchen or bathroom or anything.
Is it like one of the pop-ups?
No. Okay. It was pretty fucking small. You couldn't even stand up in that thing.
Okay.
And I started traveling. I went from California, drove over to Florida, and I tried to dance in like almost every state. I probably have danced in like 12 states. I went up to like Indiana, Pennsylvania, Ohio was actually pretty great. I'm trying to think of why I stopped. I don't even remember. I think I met a dude.
Another fucking dude.
But yeah.
That's kind of crazy. And how long did you do this? How long was the traveling?
I think it was either a year or 2 years.
And then you suddenly just met a dude and was like, okay, I'm going to stop.
Well, because then I started going international. And you can't, I guess you could dance internationally, but I don't think it'd be worth it, honestly.
That seems like a lot of traveling for... I don't know. I've never done feature dancing. I don't know. I frequent lots and lots of strip clubs. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of them have, like, as a feature dancer, I think you get paid a certain base amount just to show up. And I won't say, a lot of the girls I know that feature dance, that do it now, that they kind of show up and they kind of take their money and they're like, okay, here, I got my base pay. And then all the money they get off the stage, they either split it up between all the dancers there that night or they cut it in half and then split it.
Really?
So, the reason you do that is because you've worked in a strip club long enough. You know this. Like, those girls are fucking vicious. But if you get them on your side, those girls are like, hey, and they love it when you come back because they're like, I'm going to get fucking paid and she's going to go out and do all the work. Whereas if you ignore them, and it's the same, the strip club mentality is like you take care, you got to tip out the bartender, you got to tip out the fucking security, you got to tip out the goddamn house mom.
Than paying the freaking girls.
Well, the girls are the ones who are going to not give you shit and steal your shit while you're out.
Bullshit.
Dude, There's a lot. There's some great strip clubs out there, but there are some shady ones. Those are the ones I love. They're the shady ones.
The only reason that they're shady is because there's not enough money to go around. So that's why the girls act that way.
Right.
When you're in a club, when everyone's making money, everyone's nice to each other. And that's what makes me angry about porn is I'm not in competition with anybody else. I'm not saying that I'm the best thing in the world. I'm far from it. But I'm not competing with you. We're completely different people. We do completely different things. We look different. We act different. My voice is different, whatever. We have different fan bases. We don't need to shit on each other. Like, it's quite the opposite. If we help each other, then we all make more money.
Right.
Why are we fighting?
I don't know. I wish I did know. But and that's the thing is I don't get it. I don't understand why it happens, and I don't know. And that makes a lot of sense if there's not enough money to go around. But it's also just there's a lot of catty shit that happens. And like I said, I've worked and been in high end ones back in Atlanta to the ones in LA, and then there's the ones that are like. And I personally love the shithole in the wall ones.
Yeah, same.
I love those. The girls. I mean, I'm not going in there looking for stripper fights or anything, but like that. To me, as long as the entertainment's there, I don't give a shit.
As a customer, it's very fun.
Yeah. But I mean, and working, because I've worked in strip clubs.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've worked in strip clubs. I've kind of been around all of it. And I've done anything. I've worked to where the girls are very kind of quiet. They keep to themselves. They go out on stage. They do it. They come back and they sit in their kind of in their own thing. And these are high end places. And I worked in one that was a shithole. Like it was out in the middle of nowhere. And it had to be out there because it was in smaller town Georgia. And like the DJ worked for the county courthouse or some shit. So he was moonlighting, but he couldn't let it be known that he was there. And I found this out because I liked the guy. I got along with him well. I found out how important his day job was to be separate from what he was doing at night because one of these fucking girls got pissed and he played a song that wasn't her song. So she didn't know the mood, whatever her bullshit excuse was. And this bitch was pissed and she had been drinking. So she grabbed the heel of her fucking shoe in one hand, took the other one off and starts walking. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, what the fuck is she going to do? And over the doonch, doonch, doonch music, you hear this. And she clocked him right in the fucking head because he played the wrong fucking song. Clocked this mother, split his wig, like he's bleeding everywhere. We go hauling ass to try and because she hit him once and she's like, I'll show that motherfucker. And we get in there and he's already hit the back door and he's gone because he didn't even want the police to show up because he couldn't be in that spot because of his day job. So, like I said, I've seen it all. I've seen some stupid ratchet shit.
I've danced to fucking Gangnam Style. Like, you need to be able to dance to anything.
I know, that was what the weird part is. She clocked this dude and scarred him because he played the wrong song. And I was like, and I'm sure there's probably some, people listening to this going, I'd have hit him too, but I think it's ridiculous. It is
completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's silly.
But it's funny, I've actually thought about, like, this is so morbid. Like, if I were to ever die, like, at work or something, like, I would never want, like, because they'd take you out in, like, your little fucking stripper outfit or something.
Right.
So every time I'd put my outfit on, I was like, okay, well, is this the fucking outfit that I'm going to be dead in? And my family's going to be like, okay, on the news, stripper dies in strip club. You know what I mean? Like, that always came through my mind. Kind
of like the dirty underwear thing. Like your mom was, you never heard that? Always make sure your underwear is clean when you leave the house, because if you die, you're going to have dirty underwear on.
No, I never heard that.
Never? Funny. Oh, maybe it's my generation. It's an older thing, but that was the thing. Like, always make sure your underwear is clean because you never know what's going to happen to you.
Did you ever go to Mons Venus in Tampa?
No.
I thought it was a pretty famous place. The guy who runs it, like, at the time, Florida was going through this weird law where they kept arresting the dancers. So he would bail them out while other girls would go on stage, and they'd do this rotation all night long, going in and out of jail.
Right.
And so I went there to work, and it's literally just like this shoebox, and you have to pay your own money to put money on the jukebox in order to dance.
Oh, dude, there was a place that one of my exes worked at in New Orleans, and that was that way, down into the French Quarter, like the main kind of. It might have even been right on Bourbon Street. I don't know, but it was
I worked on Penthouse there.
But there was, because there was the one with the little legs that popped out, that swung out. And then there was a little area where there was a bunch of strip clubs. But there was one where you walked over and you put your money in and you had to play your own music. There wasn't even a DJ. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? There was also a place, this is cool since we're talking about strip clubs, because I could talk about these forever.
For real.
There was one in Atlanta. I think it's actually still there because I think it's a national monument, or at least the building is. It's called the Claremont Lounge. Do you know where I'm talking about?
I've heard of it, but I haven't been.
It's in the bottom of the Claremont Hotel, and it's in Midtown, I think. Midtown. I think it's off Piedmont. And the last time I was in there, you walk in, it has this sweet aroma that's kind of mixed between urine and vomit.
That's New Orleans for you.
And no, this is in Atlanta.
Oh.
This is in Atlanta. And there's a woman, and this is iconic. Like, when I say iconic, I mean, like, anytime celebrities are in town, that's where they go. Like, it's not uncommon to be like if fucking Marilyn Manson's in town, Marilyn Manson's gonna go hang out in there. Like, fucking, and they, like, he's been seen in there. Trent Reznor's been seen in there on a regular basis. Anthony Bourdain, when he went to Atlanta, they were like, you have to go to the Claremont Lounge, and they took him in there. And there is a dancer. Her name is fucking, I think it's Goldie. I always get it wrong. I think she goes by Goldie, and she's an older woman, and she wears the blonde wig, Goldie. And she has these nice, large, older woman, so they're a little saggy, but she's got these just big old tits. And her trick is she will take your PBR can when you're finished drinking it and smash it between her boobs. And she actually, for the longest time, she lived upstairs. Like, she rented a room in the hotel upstairs, and that's where she was living for a while. And she's like a cartoonist or something. So there's this like amazing, you guys should look this up if you're watching or listening.
How random.
It's such a cool place, but it's one of those, you go into it. It's the same reason you go to a dive bar. You go in there for the ambiance.
Yeah.
That was the same thing. You didn't go in there looking for classy girls. You didn't go in there expecting like this beautiful ambiance. You went in there because it did smell a little like pee and puke, and it did have Goldie dancing on the bar, smashing PBR cans with her boobs. Like, you went in there because of that.
That's so great.
Yeah, I love strip clubs. Let's see. So let's talk about, because you mentioned this, so I have to go back to this because I would feel I'm not doing my job. Competitive hula hoop.
Oh, no, hula dancing.
Hula dancing.
Yeah,
okay, hula.
Like,
let me get the hoop
Hawaiian,
off.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not as cool as it sounds.
The fuck it's not?
I was very young, so
you were like,
I wasn't like,
I'm picturing this that I got to play with yesterday.
Yeah, no way. I was in Catholic school.
Oh, tell me more. You know I'm the Pope. Tell me more.
And that was one of the options for like dance class, you know?
Are you Hawaiian? What's your
No,
okay,
I'm Mexican.
Know. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it was funny enough. It was ran by a Filipino woman. It was just kind of random situation. But I did it for so long that when I got a little bit older, she would do like, there was like parties or like hotel things, and we'd go and we'd like compete with other groups.
I guess that makes sense. So Filipino, I mean, it's Pacific Islander. Hawaiian.
I think she just did it because she wanted money.
I mean, fuck it, whatever works, right?
She was semi good at it.
So that's great. So you said you brought up yesterday during the shoot, you brought up you had a relative, I think, that was an Elvis impersonator.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Because that was like, you saw like both of us, me and Disco. I said his name. Me and Disco. He's got his own theme music.
I love it.
And that's all there is to it. Him and I both, I've become an Elvis fan by proxy because of him, because he loves Elvis. He told you about his email address and everything. Yes. So when you said that yesterday, we were like, tell us more. So tell us about that, because that was a good story.
I'm trying to think of where to start. So my mom's mom, it was actually like my step grandpa, but we never thought of him that way because, you know, I grew up with him as my grandpa. He changed his last name to Presley. It was
legally?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He had the whole wig and everything that he'd wear. You were never allowed to bring up the fact that it was a wig ever. Like, he had all the jumps. Even when he was not performing, he was always wearing his jumpsuit or his outfit or something.
Okay. So he like embodied this thing. Like, it wasn't just an act.
He was Elvis. He went to
Gotcha.
you remember, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, there was a competition in Vegas. It was like the Elvis impersonator or whatever, and he actually won it.
Get the fuck out of here, really?
Yeah, we went down here to support him. It actually makes me kind of sad because him and my grandma, they passed away 2 years ago now. Damn, that bums me out. But he was just so, even if he was just performing for a church or like a group of 50 people, he still gave the same amount of energy as he did for a group of 1,000.
Right.
And just, I care about something when someone is passionate about it. Even if I have no interest in it whatsoever, if you're exuding, like, this is my life, it's coming out of my pores, and that was him.
Right.
Like, and my grandma and his daughter, they were backup dancers for him. They called them the Glamour Girls.
I love that so much.
I because I did hula, when he did Rock a Hula, I wore my little grass skirt. I went on stage for him. There was one year for the Christmas show, I brought out all the, you know, like in between a show, they bring out like cards and it says like coming up next.
Yeah, like a boxing or an event where they
Yes, kind of like that. And I was so excited to pick out all my outfits. I don't know, man.
I'm trying to find it because I'm looking here. I've got the computer open, sitting here. Elvis tribute artist to compete. No, Elvis Performers Rock Southern Nevada contest.
It's probably like 15 years ago, honestly.
But it was in Vegas, right?
Yeah, it was in Vegas.
Okay, because it looks like they've moved it since to Mesquite, which is up a little ways. But now I'm curious because Disco and I'm going to be like, dude, let's go to the fucking, because it looks like it still goes on.
Oh, wow. I'm
so
surprised.
I'm like, if it's still going on, the Elvis Rocks Mesquite competition in its 10th year kicked off Friday in Casablanca Resort Showroom with a 50s showcase and concluded Saturday with the finals. And this was
very serious.
This is released in June of 2019, so it's still very much alive, and it's in its 10th year. So I'm going to bookmark this, and I know what Disco and I are going to be doing in June.
Please do. I wish I knew more about him and why he got into it. I never really got the chance to ask him about that, and that really bums me out. But when I was in Catholic school, he would perform, and we had like our yearly festival or whatever, and I thought it was really embarrassing, but everybody at my school thought it was so cool because he would like throw out teddy bears and stuff like that. So now every time I hear that song, Are You Lonesome Tonight? It just
tears you apart. Yeah.
Makes me balls.
I knew what you meant.
It makes me ball.
That's crazy. But I think that's a general thing though with kids and adults. Like I watch tons of interviews or just because I'm interested about just the world and people. And you ask any kind of celebrity about their parent or ask the child of the celebrity and like, oh, what's it like having, like your dad is Dwayne Johnson or your dad's Kevin Hart. They're like, so
yeah,
like they get zero respect. They're still just a fucking dad. And they still like, who is it? Jamie Foxx. He's really close with his daughter and she's older and she performs and she's like, I think she's on a couple shows and she, to this day, like he comes out and he's being Jamie Foxx. He's a comedian. He's this super talented guy. And she's like, you embarrass me so much. Would you please stop? And you see them interact and you see him very much become dad to her. And she's probably in her 20s now. And it's just fucking amazing because no matter how amazing he is as a performer and a songwriter and all these things, he's still just her dad. Yep. And she's like, you're embarrassing me. Stop it.
Speaking of, did you see that Steven Spielberg, how his daughter is getting into porn or was in, I don't know, something like that?
We have a computer to verify this.
I know, right? So I'm like, okay, like who's worked with her? Am I going to work with her? I think she does lesbian porn.
Steven Spielberg daughter?
Yeah, I've just been seeing it all over Twitter recently.
Dagg.
And apparently he's like cool with it.
That's even more amazing. Steven,
my freaking glasses and these headphones are not very.
They pinch in. If you need to like pull one off like that to help it.
Thank you.
I could keep these on mainly just so you can hear, so you don't all of a sudden you're like, I can't hear anymore. So it's mainly just to keep you aware of where your face is.
Okay.
That way I don't have to sit here and like ride this button the whole time.
Oh, I feel you.
All right, Steven Spielberg, embarrassed by porn star daughter, is 3 days ago. I had someone who reached out, and she's probably going to fucking squeal when she hears me say this, but I'm gonna read a little bit of what she wrote me. It's a fan of mine.
Okay.
She's super cool. She's a fucking therapist, and her and I've got a lot of really great fans. But this one, she hit me up, and I haven't been able to respond to her yet. But so as a therapist, she has just to keep doing every couple of years. She has to kind of re-up, and she has to take classes and do these things.
Yeah.
And she said she just finished the renewal round and did yes, I'm talking about you. I'm reading your shit on the podcast. She did one on human trafficking and sex work, and she said what sucks was that the sex work one was presented from a sex negative feminist perspective. All women in the sex industry are automatically victims and have no ability to give consent. And it pissed her off. And I haven't, because you can see it's just very.
Oh yeah.
And she's a therapist, and she's really fucking cool. And like her and I kind of go back and forth about things. But it was just weird that she's taking a class as a therapist, and it comes from a very negative place. It has this negative, everything about it's like and icky, and it's like, but it's not.
Yeah.
And people seem to forget that this is consensual, and people do this because they chose to do it, and that you have people, for the most part, that are helping empower you as a woman to, hey, let's do it, especially on my sets. And you know, the way I'm like, tell me what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. And that's the way we're going to play the game, because it's something that's an experience for you to grow how you want to grow sexually, mentally, however you want to do it. So it just bugged me that I read that. I was like, you're supposed to be helping people and educating people and giving a therapist a point of view that I feel like should be very middle of the road and not one-sided. So now as a therapist, if someone comes to you and they're like, so I'm a porn star, you instantly are going to judge them and be negative to them because of a class that's supposed to be, and I am assuming that therapists are there to help you.
Yeah.
So why would you come at something with teach such a negative thing? So it's kind of weird.
That's honestly a reason that I've kind of put off finding a therapist, because having to say that to someone and watching them have to keep their face straight is not something that I find interesting.
I will tell you this, and I've got a card up front that, and I'll give it to you, and I talk about them all the time. It's called Pineapple Sport. There we go. And it's because they do therapy, and they do it for people in the sex industry, sex workers. So there's not any judgment of like, oh, you're a porn star and you love triple anal. Hey, I don't want to talk to you. Like, you can go in and say, I'm doing porn, I have questions about this, I've got a triple anal scene coming up, and I'm worried about, and no one's going to be like, a triple, wait, what? And they're not going to judge you and be like, I can't talk to you, you're a filthy whore.
But maybe you can clarify for me. I thought it was more of like an emergency service. Like, you can actually like go in and sit down and talk to someone? You
can call them, and what it's based upon is it's an income base too. So it's kind of a situation where you call and say, hey, look, I need to talk to someone. And what they do is they say, okay, where are you at? What are you doing? And here's a list of people that are within your range of what can help you. So, but there's never any of this, oh, well, you don't have any money. So, and I don't know exactly, I haven't used them, but everyone that's used them is like, please, please, please use them. Like the fan that I was telling you about, she's the same thing. She's like, thank you so much for pushing Pineapple Support. Like, it's so amazing, because it's a huge, huge thing that we have that I feel like spreading the word as much as possible helps anybody, because at some point everybody needs to talk to somebody. Yeah. But it's very much call them, and you can sit down with them and talk with them, and they can help find you someone to sit down and get more into what you need to talk about.
Rad.
And I got cards up here. I keep them in the green room.
Please. I actually was supposed to help them with a commercial, but I had a scheduling conflict. So back to what you were talking about before about the therapist. It's odd that, I don't know if she's based in Nevada or not. I guess it doesn't matter. But we actually have brothels in Nevada, and people are still teaching that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so negatively. Right. And I don't want to, I haven't done any research. I don't know the particulars, but as far as I know, the people who have opened up to me in the past now 8 years that I've just been in the adult world, I know of 4 girls that were like low-key forced to be there. And one of them was in porn. So, not that I'm saying that it's not more prevalent, because I have no idea. Maybe someone's just not telling me. Right. But I think the people who are doing this genuinely because they want to is much higher.
Yeah, but you're always going to have that. You're going to have, and that's the thing is, I say that to people, like, I'll sit here and we'll have a conversation about something that's very specific to because we're aware of it and we understand it or we know someone. But then there's it also happens at the bank. It also happens at the factory. There are people that are the same thing. There's sex trafficking, the shit that's going on that doesn't necessarily have to be forced into porn.
Yeah, the freaking massage stuff. You know about that? Like, they'll take the girls' passports and they say, okay, you'll get your passport back once you make this much money.
Yeah. I mean, sex trafficking is horrible. It's a horrible fucking thing that a lot of people kind of turn their nose up to and ignore. Or you have lawmakers who say, oh, well, we're going to pass this law that inconvenience porn people specifically, not strippers, not real sex workers, just the porn industry. And then they masquerade it and put a big, nice bow on it and say that we're protecting it from sex trafficking. No, you're not, motherfucker. You're attacking the porn industry.
January, actually, of this year, it actually did change, in California, at least for strippers. They made it so you cannot be an independent contractor anymore. So the clubs are forced to tell you
that's
the
for
hours
everybody.
And stuff like that. But that was just January of this year.
Oh, I know. Because right now the porn industry is people, like if you go and look on Twitter, you'll see that a lot of the performers now have, you know, like Vanessa Vega LLC or incorporated because a lot of people in California now are like, if you're not incorporated, I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah.
And they're forced to because of all of the things. And they're saying, oh, we're doing this to protect the independent contractors. But people like, there's so many loopholes in that law. And
I feel like they're just removing the liability for themselves because like I am in charge of myself now. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's removing the liability as much as it is. That's a huge amount of, I don't know. I've got theories, but I also haven't studied enough about it to have an educated opinion. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, do your own fucking research.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing. I think that before that law was even made, my wife and I talk to people all the time. We're like, why aren't you incorporated? Why don't you have an accountant? Why don't you have insurance? And it's because you're human and you're a person and you're an adult and you should have, as an independent contractor, as a person that's doing you should have your own company. You should have an accountant that helps you with your money. You should, be doing these things that are responsible because it protects you.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with, the AB 35 or whatever the fuck that thing was. To me, it just makes more sense. It's more business savvy to do those things because at the end of the day, that's what you are. You've created a brand and that brand is your name and you need to incorporate LLC, whatever you want to do. But you legitimize it by being professional because you aren't just some person doing something. You're a company and you should treat yourself that way.
Exactly. I don't know if it was you or maybe someone the day before we were talking about like the girls that come into this that are 18 who have never had a job before.
Yeah.
And I feel like the whole incorporation thing kind of forces them to grow up a little bit, for lack of a better word, because you got to take it more seriously because like your taxes are coming up.
Right.
And like you can like go completely broke because you're not saving for your taxes or like stuff like that. Like I don't know well enough, but I feel like a lot of people don't take it as seriously as I feel like they should.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like you show up and you get fucked that day and you're like, okay, cool, that guy was hot. I'm going to go home and spend my $1,000 on shoes. Like,
that's the problem is coming in. And I hear that so often, and I've seen it throughout the years. So again, I've done this for a long time, is that you have these girls that come in, girls and boys, but it's mainly the girls that I'm exposed to who come in and they're, oh my God, you're the hottest new thing, Vanessa Vega. Everybody wants to shoot you and they shoot the fuck out of you and you got shit tons of money and then it stops.
Yep.
And then who knows when you're going to pick up. You'll start picking them up here and there because there's some people that are late to the game like, oh, Vanessa Vega, I've never seen her before, but she's beautiful. I want her on my set too. But it starts falling off and then it falls off really quick. And then there's a big hole where you just are a little bit here and a little bit there, but it's not happening.
Yep.
Which is when you start having to do your own thing and creating your own brand, doing mini vids and doing your Fan Central or OnlyFans or whatever the thing is that you do and start kind of compensating, but also being smart in the beginning that when you made $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, whatever it is in the very beginning, that you sat on that and you put it somewhere and you were smart with it rather than going, I'm going to go buy a new car and a bunch of new shoes and a bunch of new outfits because this money's going to keep falling from the sky and it doesn't happen.
My agency called me last week because January, because I wasn't incorporated, I was still waiting for my paperwork to come through. I didn't work at all in January. So January, I feel like it was its own year, honestly. Like that was just a crazy month for me. But this month is going to end up being my best month money-wise in porn.
Right.
And they're like, hey, like, I just want you to know that, yes, the money is good. Yes, you're set to make the same amount next month, but you don't know about what's happening the next month after that.
Right.
So this isn't your time to go buy your Louboutins, his words. Make sure that you have enough money to cover for your groceries and stuff like that. Because I know people right now that are like, they can't even eat.
That's true. Before we go too far away, I want to go back to the new California thing that we were talking about that started in January. Only because I don't want people to think that I'm opposed to it, because I don't. Like I said, I'm very much the, like I said, the taking care of yourself and doing the thing. But there's also a really positive thing that came from that, because not you specifically, but the girl who just turned 18 years old, and everyone swarms, and not everyone, but there's those fucking sketchy, really motherfuckers who go after that girl. Oh, you're just turned 18 years old. Come here, little girl. And they want to turn you out as quick as they can because you're fresh meat.
Yeah.
Now, well, you got to get an LLC. So now she has to they have to step back and, do I really want to do this? Because now I got to go pull fucking $1,000 roughly out of my pocket to get myself incorporated and get the paperwork done and filed by the people that are supposed to do this thing.
The Secretary of State, go to your county, all that.
You have to do
open
that.
Your bank account.
And a lot of these predator kind of fucks in this industry, and they're everywhere, but just speaking specifically for us, they now are pissed off and they're like, fuck this is interfering. What it's interfering with is you not being able to get away with being a predator. Right. What it's doing is giving every performer a second breath. Do I really want to do this? And be sure that this is, because this is a thing, and I say this all the time, you can't take this back. Once you do this, it is done. And unless you work for a very small company and I don't even think smaller companies do it anymore. I think once you've been paid because this is money as a company. I'm the company. I give you X amount of dollars to do a chore for me, whatever it may be, whether it's a sexual act or whether it's fixing my fucking washer and dryer. The service has been paid for. So now you want to take it back. But what about me? Like, where's my money?
Yeah.
And there's people that say, well, I'll pay you double to just take my content down. No.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time that that's the thing. It's like, you can't take it back. Anytime someone's like, I kind of been thinking about this, but I'm not sure. That's the piece of advice I always give, is you cannot take it back. Yeah. There's no take backs. Once you do it and it goes out, even if that site says, fuck it, I'm going to take it down, it's already been pirated. Yeah. It's already all over the place, which is a perfect segue into Steven Spielberg and his daughter. So this is, what is this? Where's this article from? I'm not going to quote where it's from. But on Wednesday, wait a minute, hold on. Director, 23-year-old, and said the father at the 2009 Academy. This is older. How old is this? No, this is February 22nd, 2020 is when this was written. She's a 23-year-old, and she does solo sex videos that she posted on Pornhub.com. And how she is working to get licensed to become an exotic dancer in Nashville. The self-proclaimed sexual creature, quote unquote, sexual creature, said she, quote, got really tired of not being able to capitalize on my body, end quote. So, good for her.
I feel you on that.
Good for her. She's fucking, I'm not going to go into the entire thing, but if you guys do your research, that's what I say all the time, do your fucking research. So she's cute. She's super cute. She's super cute. I can't show them, but I can show you.
Yeah, she's adorable.
Yeah, she's super cute. And look what she's got. She's got a nice little collar hanging around her neck. Girl, if you're listening. I'm not going to be your daddy, but I'll be your papa.
We're here. And we're waiting.
She's super cute. That's crazy. So there's that. Steven Spielberg's daughter. Who knew? Yeah, that's the first I heard of it. I had no fucking idea. Now I'm like, what else do I not know about? I don't pay attention to.
So you want to talk about me crying yesterday?
Fuck, I was going to, that's funny. I was about to say to you, what else do you want to talk about? Or do you want to talk about anything before we get into the yesterday's shoot? Let's jump in. Let's talk about yesterday's shoot.
I mean, before we get into the specifics of it, I was just thinking like yesterday, like I'm glad that happened in a weird way, because nothing about that was faked. Like, that was completely like just like riding the roller coaster of emotions with me. Right. And I feel like that's what makes it super freaking hot.
Yeah. So we'll lay the groundwork out for everybody listening. We're not going to go to super descriptive because, then you're going to have to start paying us for it.
Well, YouTube, yeah.
And YouTube. Monetization. I love that stuff. So what happened yesterday is we basically did your first BDSM shoot. Mm-hmm. You had done one where you had some bondage on you and you had done a gangbang. But this was the first one where there were no distractions. It was you being tied up, being tortured. Yeah. And you came into it very much with I'm not sure where my threshold is. I don't know what this, or I've never experienced that. So you kind of came into it almost blind, for lack of a better term. So tell us, like, just kind of walk us through it. Like what
we did.
Yeah. Like as far as like in your head, how the day went, and it doesn't have to be specific. Like, well, then he did this thing with his finger. Like,
To be completely honest, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because I know that this was an introductory thing between the both of us, but before I came, I had the notion that I was going to be like completely drained of my life force. Like I was going to be like out for 2 days, like just like completely exhausted in every way.
Right.
And that totally was not how it was at all. Like,
but everyone that watches it, just for the record, is going to think that.
Well, yeah.
But that's why it's called a performance.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. I don't take any offense, by the way, at all, because I know that's what we do. Like, we put on a performance and we sell a product.
And I know that you can do that to me.
Right.
But we had just met each other. But our first one, I'm trying to think, my arms were this one, right?
I'm trying to think. Like,
I was on my knees, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you were on your knees. So we had her kneeling with her, and sitting on her heel, so her butt was completely on the table. And then we had your arms pulled back in like a strappado. For anybody that doesn't know what strappado is, when your arms are pulled straight back behind you, and pulled together.
Yes.
At a certain level. And the idea is to have them perpendicular to your body. So if your body's sitting straight up and down, your arms would be going
level with the ground.
Yeah, they would be, your body is vertical and your arms are be horizontal.
Yeah.
Ish enough. Which is strenuous on the shoulders. It puts a lot of, like, it's meant to suck really bad. I can show you that, like, they used to hang people above doorways like that. They would strap you up and down your arms and then hang you, and that was the way that you were put on display until eventually these muscles said fuck it and gave out, and they ripped, and there you were. Yeah.
Well, lucky for me, I'm double jointed, so I didn't really feel much of that pain. But we did the flogging there. I liked the flogging before that I had tried in my previous shoot, but I had never gotten the amount of pain that I did from you.
Right.
And so it was kind of shocking because I'm like, okay, whatever, I've done this before. It's not a big deal. And I was just like, okay. Because, I mean, you have this big old wall you're showing me, like, okay, well, this is a different texture, and this one has knots in it, and this one, you know.
This was made of horsehair.
Yes, exactly. So there's so many options even within just the flogging realm. It's crazy. Right. And then the second one, I was doggy style. I don't know. I'm trying to watch my words.
Yeah. No, that's fine. It was, you were in a kneeling position.
Yes.
With your butt in the air, and then you were again with your arms strappadoed, which forced your face into because you were on a box this time, a big wooden box. So it kind of face down, ass up.
Yeah, that one was not as.
You guys
fun.
know that song.
But it got very wet in that position.
Yeah, there was. We kind of moved around more. There was more on your back. There was more on your arms. There was more on your feet.
Oh, the feet.
And then we finished up with, again, your arm. No, we switched up because you had mentioned in the beginning that you wanted to do a zipper.
Yes.
And a zipper, for anyone that doesn't know, is clothespins that you take a twine, a piece of string, and you tie it around a clothespin, and you start at a top, or wherever you start, and then you work your way the opposite direction, and you keep putting the clothespins over the string as you work down or up the body. And then once they're on both sides or one side, you grab the string and you pull it as hard as you can, and it rips all of them off. Not rips like flesh getting ripped, but more of like it's just a term. You just pull it as hard as you can, and they all come flying off at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is its own little fuck.
Yeah.
So, and then we did that because you were like, that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and then you poured candle wax on me.
Yeah, and then I poured candle wax on top of the zipper before I pulled it off.
Yeah.
So, I think what I'm asking is, tell me about the emotion that you went through from beginning to end. From like the entire, like when you first walked into how you were feeling to how you felt right after the zipper.
I thought that I was going to be like full panic attack on the way over here, because that's how I was on my last shoot on the way there. Because I was just so like anticipating the worst, I guess, but in the best way. And so when I got here, I was oddly calm, and then calm through the first two scenes. And then as soon as we're like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to try the zipper, that's when you saw me. Like I started shaking. I was like trying to calm myself down with my breathing. And even up until 10 seconds before you pulled it off of me, I wasn't even sure if I was going to do it. Yeah. So that, I feel like that's what's so cool about it though. 'Cause like, I'm sitting there, you're putting them on me. Within the first 20 seconds of you putting them on me, not even finished with one side. In my head, I'm like, okay, tell him to take them off. I can't do it anymore. But then you said something. I wish I could remember the exact words you used. I mean, you'll be able to see it, but you were like, you can do anything. You were so perfect in that moment, because you're so like, you're looking into my soul and you're talking to my very being, and you're just like, you can do this. You can do anything you want. And you're talking to me like that for like 10 minutes. And as soon as you put them all on, you kind of get that, like, it like sets in and you kind of like accept it. And like, yeah, the pain's still there, but it's like dull a little bit.
Right.
And I'm like, I was more focusing on the candle wax that you were doing, which is probably a good thing that we did that. And then as soon as I saw you start playing with the twine, it became more real in my mind. And I was like, okay, like I kept telling you, like, don't do it. Because I told you before the scene to not tell me and surprise me.
Right.
And I was cursing myself in my mind for saying that before. And I was like, he's just going to do it and I'm not going to be ready for it. And then I came the last time and I said, just do it. And I thought that you were going to do it in that very moment. And you didn't, and it was still like maybe a minute or a minute and a half after that, you finally pulled it off.
It was several minutes.
And I was just like, just do it already. Like,
well, it was the timing. And what it was about the timing. And what was going on is it was waiting to be timed exactly when you were going to orgasm.
Yeah.
And
I just felt like you were fucking with my head.
Well, what I was doing, because you wouldn't get out of your own head. You wouldn't get out of your way. What you were doing was sitting there going, okay, just do it. Because you got yourself ready. You're like, because I also told you, I was like, it's time for you to be ready. Because you kept saying, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. One of the hottest parts is when you looked up and you're like, I'm scared.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, oh.
So you tell me, you said, get out of your head. And I immediately opened my eyes because my eyes were shut for a couple minutes. And as soon as you said that, I finally was able to come. And then I get that sad baby face and I'm just like, and then I start crying and you wipe a beautiful tear from my eye. And I was like, I'm scared. I forget what you said.
I said, that one's mine.
No, but
I said, don't take that away from me. That's mine. And I reached down and wiped your tear.
But what did you say to I'm scared? I don't remember.
I think I told you you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you're like, I'm a bad bitch. You can do
No, yeah, I was like, you're a bad. Yeah, I kept telling you over and over, because what you do is you, and it's simple psychology. I think that I'm not a psychologist. I don't know. But I do know that when someone is reluctant and someone's nervous and they're not sure, I don't think I can do this. And it's easy for all of us. Most people can find a reason, and usually do find a reason not to do something. Yeah. Whether it's going to the gym or whether it's to not do a drug or whatever it is, whatever it is, people are going to find an excuse. And it's easy to find an excuse and go, oh, I'm not doing it because I've decided there's the excuse. And what I did was simply kind of just hold your hand and tell you that I got you. Yeah. And I stood there and was like, I got you. No matter, we can stop and turn around if you want, but I'm willing to keep walking with you. Yeah. And I think that was enough for you, for whatever reason, to say, I want to keep doing this. Because you wouldn't have said you wanted to if you didn't really genuinely want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And then when you were faced with it instantly, you're like, I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. You did, but you were like, this hurts and this is going to suck. And I think maybe I'm in over my head. Yeah. But somewhere way back here, you wanted it. You just got scared of it. So all I did was
hold me accountable.
I held you accountable, but it wasn't in a way that forced you. It was like, I constantly was like, we can stop. We can, and I even told you, I was like, they have to come off one way or the other. Yeah. So you can either do it the way you wanted or you can just not do it. And it wasn't like, oh, what are you going to puss out? Because it wasn't that, but it was, you've gotten this far. Do you got them on you? You've got the wax on. You're in the moment. Do you want to just stop now? Yeah. And it's not trying to convince you that you have to. It was more of convincing you that you wanted to because you did the entire time.
I just knew that if I didn't do it, that I was going to regret it a lot.
Yeah. And that's usually the case. Usually when you're presented with a situation like that and you tap, afterwards you beat yourself up. Yeah. I should have done it. And now I want to go back. But then and
then the anxiety doubles the next time you actually decide to do it.
Because now you're like, what if I tap again? What if I can't do it? And you start beating yourself up and you've already lost before you even started the battle. So that's all it was. It was a way to kind of spirit guide you, if you will. It was a way to kind of put you into a situation that was uncomfortable, but help you get through it in a way to where you came out on the other side. And it was, I I even brought up your tattoos. I was like, every time, because I've got tattoos too, and I know. So you go in and there's going to be pain. It's a pain that you want, though. It's a pain because at the end, you're going to have this beautiful piece of work on your body that whether it means anything or not, but you went through this ordeal and you have something to show for it. Yeah. Same thing. Now you have an entire video that shows it.
I have quite literally something to show for it.
I was going to say, you have marks too, yeah.
But like I said yesterday, as soon as you pull them off, I don't know, it's, it almost, I mean, you understand, it almost felt good. Like there was pain, yeah, but it was more of like the shock of it. And it was like you had like I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. Like you had something stuck to you that you never wanted stuck to you. And finally, after hours or whatever of all the pain, you finally get it removed. And you're just like, like popping a giant pimple or something.
Right.
It was great. And also I had Victoria in the back of my mind. I was like, if fucking Victoria can do this, I can do this.
I'm going to see her on Friday. Her and I are going to do a custom.
I'm seeing her on tomorrow.
Oh, well, I was going to say, you should tell her then. You should tell her that you and I shot together and you did your first zipper and that you, like, whatever, embodied her. She was your spirit animal. She motivated you. I've decided that Tommy Pistol's my spirit animal.
Dude, I feel kind of bad because the first time I worked with him, we were like in the trenches of the scene, and they were talking about something about him doing something, and I was like, yeah, I'm kind of scared of him. And you could tell he was like,
of Tommy?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't mean it that way. I mean it in the best way because he's so like creative and inventive with the things that he does.
He is. He is a remarkable man, and he seems to be one of the performers, the straight performers, straight. Because at the end of the day, is anybody really straight-ish? Doesn't
he do stuff with his butt?
Oh, he loves to do stuff with his butt.
Yeah.
He does, I don't know how, unless you're on his OnlyFans or unless you know him. You don't usually know those things.
Well, that scene with Angela that just came out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, where she's finger banging his ass.
Yes.
Yeah. Oops, I said it.
Beep.
I might have to do that. But he is very much kind of like, he's kind of knocking the walls down of, I might be straight, but I also really, really like doing dirty stuff. And he's putting it out there, and I don't think he's nervous because he's such a fucking badass. But I think other people may be like, that's pretty badass that he's doing that. But because I think people are nervous because it's like you suddenly may get painted into a corner that, oh, you're that guy.
Yeah, but it's just like, why? It's another part of your body. Like, why? You exploring your part of your body, why does that make you gay or straight? Or why does that even matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're playing with your ass. You have basically a G-spot in your ass.
That's true.
Like, why would you waste that your entire life when you don't even know what kind of pleasure you could experience from it? And
the answer to your question is because there's boxes. And everyone needs to compartmentalize and say that, oh, Vanessa Vega is this beautiful Latin woman.
Especially in porn.
Which I refuse to do. Like, I've recently kind of just came to the conclusion, I say recently, in the last year or so, came to the conclusion, I was like, I'm done. I don't sit there and go, the sexy white girl. So I'm not going to do the sexy Latina or the sexy black ebony. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, if it shows up in a tag in the update, that's fine. But if I shoot anyone, I don't reference their race anymore. I know that, and it's a key word, I just don't give a fuck. Like, I don't want to do it. So if you ever see a shoot that I've directed and it has keywords in the title or in the copy, it's because someone else put it there. Just because, and I mean, we have to do keywords to a certain degree, but like, and I understand too that ebony is one of the top search terms in porn. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because if you can look at the screen, you can be like, oh, look, there's a person of color. I don't care. If you're not going to use it one way, then I don't feel you should use it the other way.
Yeah.
And to this day, have you ever seen a porn title that was like hot white girl?
No.
Big white dick. Like, you don't hear those things. Well, there's the stereotypes too, but all joking aside, no, because they don't, because it's the normal. So now I guess what people are trying to say is now it's abnormal. So now we have to point out that it's a person of color or this thing that is completely irrelevant. I had Anna Fox on here, and I asked her because she's a friend of mine, and it's something that I wanted to talk about, and she was like, let's talk about it. So I asked her, I was like, what do you prefer? You prefer black, ebony, exotic, or woman? And she's like, fucking woman, because that's what I am. And I was like, okay. And I was like, but I want to talk about it because it needs to be discussed. it's that it seems like, oh, well, it's a selling point, but fuck you. That's not the thing to be selling. Like, find something else. Find out that she's fit as fuck.
Yes.
Talk about that. Talk about her tight ass, or the fact that she can do whatever magical things she can do with her holes, or that, you know, she's got petite breasts. Those are things that also sell.
Yeah.
The color of the skin shouldn't fucking matter.
It's odd to me though, because I did a content trade with someone, and he told me ahead of time, like, hey, like, I just don't want you to use any specific words when we're doing this to make it anything about race play or anything, which I wasn't going to do to begin with, but I appreciated the clarification. But then at the end of the scene, when he posted it, he used those words to promote it. And I was like, what? What?
Yeah. And it's because it sells. And I refuse to do it. Like, I don't care for it. Yeah. And I mean, everybody do your thing. I'm not judging anybody, and I don't think that it's wrong that people do it. I just personally, my preference is I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's the way I feel. That's where I stand, because it's just, I think it's, and I don't know, there's a lot of politics around it. There's a lot of talk. I mean, we could sit here and spend we're over an hour now. We could spend another hour probably just sitting here debating this conversation, this specific topic. Yeah. It's just a decision that I made. I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So whatever.
I just post like Vanessa Vega and blank. That's all I say now for my titles.
Oh, I still use the hot, beautiful, sexy, pain, slut, whore, this, that. Like, I'll use all the other words. I just take the definition of their skin complexion out of it.
I have to tell you, after you were saying yesterday, you're like, well, you're not much of a pain slut. You're more of a cum slut. In my head, I'm like, my goal in life is to become a pain slut.
And that wasn't a stab at you. That was by no means a stab. Because there are girls who I love working with who I don't have to put the 110% in. Like, I walk off every set sweating and like winded and like, shit, that bitch is draining me. There's also girls that don't need as much effort on my part, and they still get there. Remember I was telling you that there's certain directors, they have a certain speed, and they have to, no matter what, I'm going my speed, and if you can't handle it, fuck it, I'm going to cancel the shoot and send you home. Yeah. And to each his own, whatever. Mine is, I base it around the model every single time. I try and like curate this perfect, or as close to perfection as I can get, experience for the model, so they can come out of it on the other side of it and go, fuck, that was awesome. And I feel accomplished, and not be like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit here and do the things that you really love, and I'm not going to torture you. I'm still going to do the things, but I'm going to do it on a level that gets you to go, fuck, 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 fuck. Okay, he stopped because I was about to say red. Oh, shit, he's doing something. Oh, okay, he stopped again. And do that. And if it's me hitting you a couple of times, just, and that's all it takes, fine. And if I have to knock the fuck out of you repeatedly for 10 minutes straight to get you to make a sound, I'll do that too. Yeah. But every single person's different, and every experience has to be different. It has to be done that way to make sure that people still get the experience.
So have you ever / do you still do, like, for lack of a better term, private sessions, like without any cameras or anything?
No.
Why not?
I've got too much to lose.
Covering your ass.
I mean, you see the studio that I have a reputation as far as what I do, and I don't condemn anyone for doing what they do. I think sex work is sex work. It's not my thing. Yeah. I have so much time tied up in doing a podcast that I've recently taken on, doing the work, running the business that I run, running the studio that I run, and staying on top of everything else. And then take all of that and sit that in this little compartment, and then I have to go home and be a dad. Yeah. And I have to have time for my family. Even though I work with my wife, I still have to have this time we're not talking about work. We're not talking about what's coming up or the renovations that we're going to do to the studio, or tax season is upon us. There's all of these things that, that a lot of people don't realize that, go on, especially being a studio owner. So, or like a small corporation like I am. I have all of that going on, and I don't, what free time I have, I try and give it all to my family.
I feel you.
So I just don't have the energy to be like, oh, because unless I was making millions and millions, and if I was making millions, I'd probably stop making porn, because I could make so much money just doing that service for someone else. Yeah. But until, like Rihanna calls me, because I know, girl, I heard the song too. I know what you're into. And there's plenty of people that are into it. But unless I had some high-end client who I became their personal top, and they paid me really good money, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to choose one or the other. And right now I choose this.
So minor segue, burnout. I because I'm so new, I worked my first like week straight, and then I was supposed to have content trades on the days that I was working and the days that I wasn't working.
Right.
And at the end of the last day, I was just like, I can't. If somebody touches me, if somebody kisses me, if somebody does anything to me, I'm gonna lose it.
Right.
Like, I just need some time I don't even want to think about sex. I don't want to even watch a movie that has anything to do with sex.
Right.
Like, I
want to have a cup of tea and read a book and be left the fuck alone.
Right?
Right.
And like, I don't feel like I should feel guilty for that. But I don't want to seem like I'm ungrateful, because I'm not. Like, I'm so grateful that people want to do content trades with me.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just heard something else.
But sometimes it's exhausting.
It is.
And I'm just like, even to reply to you, like, I have a 1-year-old. So me making time even for paid work is very, very difficult for me, because I don't have a babysitter. So I rely on my family. So making time to do content trade is nearly impossible for me. And I've had so many people get frustrated to the point of like not even talking to me anymore.
Right.
Because I had to cancel, or I was sick or whatever, or I couldn't find a sitter. And I'm like, it's not personal at all.
Right.
Like, I just genuinely can't right now.
What you have to do is, first you have to prioritize what makes what makes you happiest first.
Yeah.
And you have to work. So obviously, I think at the end of the day, all of us are like, I just want to stay at home, be with my family, and everyone can fucking eat a dick, and I'm done. But that's not the way it works unless we hit the lottery. And since they don't have one in Nevada, which is still weird to me.
Really?
Yeah. You have to go to the state line if you want to play the lottery.
That's weird.
I guess there's enough gambling out here.
Yeah,
as it
that's
is.
true.
Sorry. I'm cloggy this morning. You have to, when it comes to work, you have to do the things that make you the happiest. And as soon as it becomes, like I told you, and I tell all my models this, I don't ever want you to be on my set and hope that it's almost over and I'm just going to get through this and, well, he'll be finished in it. Fuck no.
Yeah.
If you were ever in that situation, you stand up and you say, hey dude, I need you all to listen really close. Fuck all of you. I'm leaving. And you, because it's up here, this is the most important thing. And as soon as you are doing this and you're unhappy about doing it, you should just stop. You have to walk away.
Yep.
You have to be able to find happiness, and you also have to be able to balance what you do for a career and what you do at home, and be able to not let the two of them cross.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't let them cross, but you can't go to work and have a shitty day and come home and bring it and let it down. Like I read a thing recently, and it was talking about this man who had this horrible day. Every fucking thing in the world went wrong for him, and he actually needed a ride home from someone, and someone took him home. I think about the boss's some little tale. And right as he was walking up, and he was just miserable, and he was deflated, and his day was just fucked.
Yeah.
And you could see it on his face. And as he walked up to his front door, he stopped at a tree and he rubbed the leaves, and he went to the front door and he smiled and greeted his family, and he was this amazing dad. And the next day, the person asked, what was the deal with the tree? Because that was very noticeable that everything changed. And I think he called it his worry tree. And he said every time he came home, he hung it up there and he left it outside, and he went in and was with his family. And when he came out the next morning, most of the worries were gone, and the ones that were still there were easier to handle. And it was the sweetest fucking story. And I was
beautiful.
Like, and it correlates with what we're talking about, meaning that you have to put it down. You have to leave it there and go in and be the mom and the wife and do what you do and be able to enjoy that. And then the next day you go do what you have to do. And if it was a shitty day, leave it at the door and then pick it up when you walk back out.
It's just hard when I have people who can influence my job so much hitting me up to do that, because I'm like, okay, I'm in a very interesting position now, because okay, if I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to, then it's going to be, you can see it in the video, you know what I mean? But also like what you were saying, like how many times can you betray yourself before you start fucking with your own head?
Right.
And I was like, I came to a point where I kept scheduling with them and I kept canceling with them, because I was just like I was hoping that they would quit before I would, you know what I mean? Like they would finally be like, okay, we're done with this. But in my head, I was like, even if this affects my work, even if I never get to work with them again, or they talk bad about me to someone else, it is worth more than me doing something that I never wanted to do to begin with.
Right.
Which is, it's hard, and it pisses me off that I even had to think that, because I should be able to say no and people just take that as it is and not take it personally, but it's complicated.
Yeah. Your mental health has to be the number one priority for you ever.
Yeah, but I don't want someone to take that personally. Like, oh, I'm going to mess with my mental health if I sleep with you. You know
Everyone's
what I mean?
going to. Everyone takes everything that anyone else does personally.
And
it's a personal attack. Yeah. What you have to do is reconfigure the way you think in a way that you don't allow it. You can't help the way you initially think. You were like, you motherfucker. But the next thing that happens and how you react to that thought defines who you are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can be like, you fucking stop fucking calling me. But what you do is you say, hey, look, it doesn't seem like our schedules are going to come together right now. Let's postpone this until we have a little free time, and I'll hit you up when I'm ready.
So is that what people do? Because I'm sure I'm definitely not the only person that this has happened to.
It's hard because what you're doing is it's not a paycheck.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do it. But to put on the same hand, or in the same note anyway, that you look at it like this. What you are doing is you're going out and you're spending zero money. Your time is worth everything, and I'm not discounting that, but you're taking zero money. So all you're now doing is putting in effort, and you're going to go create something, and you own it, and they own it. There's no JP, there's no kink.com, there's no Brazzers. You fucking own that product. So you're not sharing that with anyone. The money comes in, it's all you. And it didn't cost you a fucking dime. It just cost you time, which has its value.
And driving up to LA.
But what I'm saying, there's those situations. But what you do is sit there and plan your schedule and talk to, I almost said his name, I don't know if he wants his name out, your agent, and say, hey, look, I'm going to take a week off at the beginning of May. And you start telling everyone that, hey, I want to do trade with you. I want to do trade with you. I'm going to be in LA or wherever the first week of May or whatever date you set up. And you call people, you make arrangements with friends, you get a hotel, whatever it is that you do, because at the end of the day, if you're doing this, you want to still have your time to where you can communicate with your family or whatever. But you plan it out. And anytime anyone's like, oh my God, you are so fucking hot and I really want to shoot content with you, I'll be doing it in May.
Yeah.
And you go with the intent that I am going to work my fucking ass off as hard as I can and get as much content as I possibly can fucking get with people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
And if someone's like, oh my God, you're so hot, I want to do content with you, and you're not interested, just say, I don't shoot content.
Yeah.
I don't, and if they even come at you and they're like, oh, well, I saw that you did trade with somebody else. Well, I'm not doing it right now.
Yeah.
And you can politely bow out without being like, fuck you, it's you.
Yeah.
And you can also just be like, I don't want to do it with you.
But okay, so tell me if you think this is correct. I was thinking like, okay, if I'm making content, the people that I've seen, like, oh, I can't remember her name. Of course I can't remember her name. The girls that I've seen that have like really big followings on like their Snapchat or whatever, it's just them. And I was like, okay, so if someone's wanting to buy content from me, like side content, besides like the movies that you can buy and the companies that I've worked with, whatever, they're not looking for this male performer or this female performer that I'm working with. They're looking for me. Yeah. So why would I not just make solo content by myself?
Why don't you?
That's what I'm saying. So why would I even do content trades, period? Why wouldn't I just do it by myself?
You don't have to. Cherie DeVille's a good friend of mine, and she trades with her friends sometimes, but I think it has to be at a level that she wants to do it.
Yeah.
She's very selective with who she shoots with, and she has a hustle that she could have stopped doing porn a long time ago. Like, she is one of the top earners on Fan Central. Her and Danny Daniels are both friends, and they see, Danny, I love you.
Danny Daniels, that's who I was talking about.
If you guys look right there, you can go to her site right now. I'll put that in post. I know you were like, where? But there's a hustle, and but what you did is you've now created this brand that is only you, and you know who's controlling that brand? You. Not Brazzers, not Kink, not anybody else. You get to control exactly how you are. Have you ever noticed anytime you see Angela White, she looks exactly the same. Her hair is always the same. Her makeup is always the same. She's learned how to do her own makeup. Like when she shows up for my shoot, she does her own makeup. And it's exactly the same as when she goes and sits in the chair with the highest and the top rated makeup artist. You still are going to make her look just like Angela because it's her brand, and she has taken control of it to a point where it's, you either do my makeup the right way or you don't do my makeup. And she's by no means, she's one of the sweetest people. Like, I don't think she has a mean bone in her body. And that's what it is you have to take control, but you have to put in the work, and to do your own content, you have to work and work, and it's every fucking day. And then you have to get out and hustle. You have to push it to where people know you and they get used to you. But to get there, you have to do the porn first. You have to be over here doing that. And the way I've seen it. You build up a big enough name to where people are like, fuck, I want to know what she's doing.
Yeah.
And then you keep making the content and making the content. One, it's going to be a second income that you, or a different income rather than getting paid by other corporations and other companies. But more importantly, it's yours.
Yeah.
That no one ever gets to take a piece of. That's your shit.
All the content trades I've ever done, I'm doing their thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's never been like a collaboration. It's never been like, well, I want to do this. It's always been like, okay, well, I'm showing up in their series or whatever.
Right.
And I'm just like, okay, I feel like I have no anything over how I look, what I'm doing, what I'm saying. And I'm just like, I'm not into it. Like, if I'm going to be doing this, like, I want to do me.
Well, that's what you should think about. Anytime anyone comes at you and says, hey, I want to do this trade thing, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And if they say, well, I'm going to dress you up as a pony and I'm going to dress up as a donkey and we're going to do these things, it's not my thing. No thanks. And just say no thanks. I'm not interested. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do? Get mad? And if they get mad, fuck them. You probably didn't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and to each his own, everybody's different, but I feel like, but you have to go into it, and what they are doing is they're controlling their brand, and they know specifically what they want. So you're like, fuck yeah, trade sounds great. And then when you get there, you're like, wait a minute, what's this donkey suit? Why are you dressing me up like this? And then the scene's over and they're like, that was great. Here you go. Here's your copy. And you're like, I didn't want to wear a donkey suit today.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to, is they have whatever their brand is, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yep. So
you now have to do the opposite of what you've been doing, which is showing up and going with their brand, and you have to create what you want to do.
Yep.
And
which is complicated in and of itself.
Well, do you have a stunt cock? Will your husband put his cock on camera?
He wouldn't be mad at me for saying this, but his cock is kind of very small.
Okay.
It's perfect for me, but
very few girls that I know in this industry are like, oh my God, the bigger the better. Most of them are like, I prefer it smaller.
Yeah.
And by smaller meaning not gigantor.
Yeah. But it has a good curve, and it literally, like, I feel like his dick is the puzzle piece for my vagina. Like, he could just put his dick inside of me and I'll squirt. Like, it just, like,
there you go.
It's right there.
But that's what I'm saying. And it doesn't matter about the size. What they want to see is you.
Yeah.
So do you.
Yep.
Try it. If he's willing to do it and you're willing to shoot it, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of people like, wow, of all the dick, that's the one. People are going to be like, oh my God, look at what she's doing with that dick.
I've always wondered that. Like, when people order customs, like, I was thinking about, like, should I put an option for, like, what kind of dick do you want? Like, does it matter? Because, like, I was thinking, like, worst case scenario, let's say I shoot with a white guy or whatever.
Right.
And I'm selling it to a black guy or a Mexican guy. And he's like, okay, well, like, I was trying to, like, picture myself with you. And now that it's a white dick, like, I'm just like, okay, maybe I don't want this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Customs, usually they are so, if you've never done a custom or gotten a custom request, they are so hyper specific about.
But he never mentioned anything about.
And don't worry about it. I wouldn't. If they didn't mention it specifically, hey, I want this certain dick, don't worry about it. Fuck it. And if they say, hey, that's not what I asked for, no, you never asked for it. Or if you want to know, just email back and say, hey, look, you didn't specify, does it matter? And they'll usually say no if they didn't specify, because oh, can you have the tube socks that come exactly 1 inch above your knee and have a blue stripe on top and then a 3/4 inch red stripe below it? Like, they're so specific about shit. So if they don't put that specific thing in there, they probably don't care anyway.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, what time are you supposed to be over there? You got to be over there at 11?
2.
Oh, 2. Okay, you got a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's sneak it up on 11 anyway, so we can wrap this thing up. Let's see. You are new, but I'm going to ask you anyway because you probably have fresh stuff in your head. I usually wrap these up with an advice situation to where I ask you to give advice to someone who's coming into the industry. And even though you are newly into the industry, I feel like I said it's fresh in your head to where you're like, oh, these are the things that I wish I would have known. So if you could give advice to anyone coming into the industry right now, what would you say to them?
I answered the same answer before, but I feel like it's good enough to repeat. Your agent is not going with you to your shoot. So you are in charge of reiterating your boundaries and holding them there. Because so many times I've had people like, okay, well, this wasn't supposed to happen in this scene, but are you okay with it?
Right.
And it's, if you're not confident in yourself and you're like shy or whatever, or like you have all these people and the crew and the people and they're paying you and there's just like, there's so much pressure to say yes.
Right.
You don't have to. And if they shouldn't, it shouldn't affect future work with them, but unfortunately for some people it does. But do you really want to come back 3 times a week to do something that you don't want to do?
Right. And that's the thing. We talk about that a lot on here too, is that you have to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no because saying no in a tough situation because you don't want to be there, you don't want to do that seems hard. But what's even harder is the next day when you're beating yourself up nonstop because you wish you would have just done it then. And that's the thing that people don't think about. It's like, it's tough. Like you and I discussed this yesterday. Your brain is a very powerful tool for you, and it's also a very powerful weapon against you.
Yeah.
Like if it, your anxiety or your depression, it's powerful and it can fucking wreak havoc on you. But you can also be put in situations that are empowering and you take control of it when you are capable.
Yeah.
And you are like, fuck, I did that. And the next time when that happens, it's easier because you've already done it once. And you're like, you know what? No, this is no. And it's not to say be a diva and act like some snobby fuck.
No.
But you stand up for yourself and don't allow people to take advantage of you.
So perfect example, I had shot for this company 6 times. But the first time that I shot with them, I always initiate, can I see your test? Can I see your test? Can I see your test? And he goes, oh, you don't need to do that. We always book 14-day pass tested. And I was like, kind of like, okay, like he's the boss, like whatever. But it bothered me to the point where I talked to my agent about it. And I was like, just let me handle it. So the next time I shot with him, before the other girl came in, I was like, hey, I know that I just met you and I hope that this doesn't come off the wrong way, but I need to advocate for myself. And even though this is like hard for me to talk to you about, like, I just want you to know that it really bothered me how we handled it last time. So if I want to see someone's test, that should never be an issue because it's like a legal requirement. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I must have not been thinking about it. Like that's never an issue. Like I don't want you to feel that way. And I was just like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
It's always more painful. It's always in your head. It's going to be so much worse than it actually is. And there's going to be a time where you're going to advocate for yourself and someone's going to be a shit to you.
Yep.
And that's when you know that you advocated for a reason.
Exactly.
But most of the time when you say, because it probably was, you probably asked the director or the producer, hey, can I see the test? And they're like, don't worry about it, we do this. And it wasn't, I'm not going to show you because I'm shady. It's, I got you. You don't have to worry about it. But then when, obviously the way it sounded when you said it, they were like, fuck, I'm sorry. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I try to be that way, but sometimes you have the days where you're busy and you're running and you're doing something and someone says, like I've had people like, hey, do you clean these toys? No shit, of course I clean my fucking toys. I would never say it like that to someone, but there's been times when I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of short with them because I'm like, it seems like such a ridiculous question. But then I understand that there's a reason for them to ask that question. They've been somewhere on some set at some point and had something dirty touch them or being, they're like, what the fuck, that's not clean.
Yeah.
So there's a reason for it. And sometimes I think in life in general, you forget that some people ask you questions for a reason or are suspect about certain things for a reason that you don't have any. And to you, you're like, why in the fuck would you ever think that? Well, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
So it's trying to get your head right in the right place to where you're like, okay, let's not judge them and be short with them. There's a reason that they need to know this. So just take that extra minute and show them or explain to them or give them the comfort to where they're like, okay, now we're good.
Yeah. And kink is really, really good about that.
We try to be.
Yeah.
We try to be. We can get the rest of the industry to start doing what we do. I think it'd be a cooler industry.
Please.
We've tried. Alrighty, young lady. This was awesome. This was amazing. And it was nice to see your pretty face after yesterday. And I can't wait to get you in the front when these cameras are turned off because I want to see those marks. You were awesome. And
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. It was really awesome. And I can't wait to do this again. Until then, we'll see you. See you guys.